thank you all for taking the time out today to attend this webinar. If this is your first time using Teams, then welcome to the platform. We are massive fans here at SA Global. And it is worth mentioning as well that Microsoft have made it free for the next 6 months or so. So if you need any help navigating Teams after this webinar, then please feel free to just drop us a bit of a line. We'd be more than happy to help you out. So my name is Sophie. I'm covering for George today, and I'll be emceeing this webinar. So I'm joined today by Michael. He is a Dynamics 365 functional consultant at SA Global. And then we've also got Paul, who is a business intelligence manager. So today we're going to be talking about Microsoft Dynamics 365 customer engagement and how you can build better relationships with data-driven insights from the platform. Very quickly, just a few housekeeping things. If you are new to Teams, if you're not on mute, then we can literally hear everything that's going on in the background, including your dogs, your children. If you're in my household, your husband making a smoothie in the other end of the house. So just make sure that you put yourself on mute. And if you have any questions, then just drop it in the chat and we'll answer them at the end. Or if you do have any questions about the session that come to you later on, feel free to email Luke. He is the organizer for this webinar at lukep@saglobal.com. Very, very quickly, a little bit about us. We've been delivering Dynamics in its, we've been delivering CRM since 2004. And we've got 800 staff in 26 offices across 20 countries. We've helped organisations of all shapes and sizes with this platform to help them engage their customers. As a partner, we are focused mainly on professional services, AEC, legal, project-based businesses, and we also have IP in those sectors to enhance the capabilities of some of the platforms that you will be shown today. Additionally, we were named Global Partner of the Year for Microsoft Dynamics 365 for Sales, which is part of this customer engagement platform that you'll see today. So, without further ado, I'm now going to hand over to Michael. Thank you all again for joining.
Thank you, Sophie. Okay, so as Sophie said, I'm Michael Nooms. I'm a functional consultant at SA Global, delivering Dynamics 365 sales and customer services. What we'd like to do is just go through a sort of demonstration on data-driven insight within Microsoft Dynamics 365 customer engagement. So Dynamics 365 for sales enables salespeople to build a strong relationship with their customers, take actions based on insights, and close sales quickly with the new AI support that it offers. The new Sales Insight features brings a wealth of information and support at the fingertips of the sales manager and sales representatives. This is provided in 4 areas: the assistant, productivity intelligence, connection insights, and predictive models. With Sales Insights, a typical opportunity record is transformed with the computed AI feedback. Predictive models for accurate scoring of opportunity deals based on fields defined by organization. Reminders and prompts from the assistant to follow up on tasks or updates of records left unattended. Relationship monitoring with connection insights evaluates if the sales team are engaging enough with the customer. And productivity intelligence for suggested actions based on the content of other activities. Let's review the Sales Insight features, beginning with the assistant. You may remember in Microsoft Office 2003, it had its own helpful assistants such as Clipit, the paperclip. Dynamics 365 had its own assistant, but a lot more intelligent and appearing on the dashboard and core records to present notifications and reminders. The assistant keeps an eye on your daily actions and communications and generates a collection of action cards that are displayed throughout the application. Examples can be seen on the screen, ranging from forgotten updates to up-and-coming events. The reminders provided are based on standard out-of-the-box action cards, which will suit most organizations. However, you can expand on this and build your own organization-specific prompts using Microsoft Power Automate. Let's now take a look at the productivity intelligence features available within Dynamics 365. Auto Capture provides activity suggestions for emails related to your work based on data found in your Microsoft Exchange email account. This helps you see relevant emails and meetings on the timeline that can be added to Dynamics 365 together with all of the other activities related to a given record. Auto Capture provides a reversal of the Dynamics 365 app for Outlook, helping salespeople within Dynamics 365 to simplify the login of customer-related activities. The email suggestions and prompts are personal to the end user logged in and not visible to others until the salesperson actions that prompt. Usually when you send an email, you never know if it was opened or read unless the recipient chooses to write back to you. Dynamics 365 uses new techniques to work around this limitation and provide message following features. You can find out when your message was opened, when a link was clicked, and when each attachment was opened. The actions are performed on email are stored using Microsoft Azure storage and provides the full email engagement history against that record. Notes analysis suggests actions that a salesperson can perform based on interactions with the customer. When you create a note, the feature analyzes the descriptions and provides intelligent suggestions. With these suggestions, the end user can take actions such as creating a meeting request or adding a new contact, for example. Moving on to connection insights. Relationship analytics enables Dynamics 365 sales to assemble relevant information from its database to create graphical displays of key KPIs and activity history. Graphical display shows KPI and activity histories for any contact, opportunity, lead, or account. The feature also calculates the overall health and trend of each of your business relationships. Relationship analytics helps the sales team answer questions such as, which opportunities should I spend my time on? Do we have a good relationship with this customer? How much time have we actually spent with them? When was the last time we contacted them? And are we planning to contact them again? Using talking points, it provides a mechanism to identify conversation starters from your emails and make them available on the contact page. The conversation starters include topics that are related to sports, holidays, family, and entertainment. And lastly, moving on to predictive models, these perform calculations on data to output scores and trends for your records. The predictive lead and opportunity scoring provides a model to generate scores for leads and opportunities to identify and prioritize in your pipeline. The out-of-the-box model chooses top factors that influence the score, but an administrator can customize that model and add additional fields, maybe custom fields you've created. The model assigns a score between 0 and 100 for records based on the signals from the record and related entities such as contact and account. Using these scores, you can identify and prioritize your leads and opportunities that have more of a chance of being converted into a win. For example, you have two opportunities, opportunity A and opportunity B in your pipeline. The opportunity scoring model applies maybe a score of 94 to opportunity A, but 55 for opportunity B. By looking at that score, you can quickly assess that opportunity A has more of a chance of being converted into a win deal. But you can then look further at the opportunity B to try and understand why it was a much lower score and try and work out what to do to help improve that. Predictive forecasting helps sellers and managers improve accuracy of future revenue by providing forecast projections using an AI-driven model that looks at historical data and the open sales pipeline to predict future revenue outcome. Drill Down is available to provide additional information on that prediction details. The trend chart shows how each forecast is trending over time, comparing it against the period end prediction and quota. A separate predictive realization line is automatically created to project future revenue over time. And last of all, a snapshot freezes the forecast data at the moment in time. The frozen data includes aggregate column values, manual adjustments, and underlying record fields that directly affect the forecast. You can use these snapshots to see how the forecast and its underlying data have changed over time. The flowchart provides a visual representation of how the forecast changes between those two moments in time. And then managers can use the flowchart to drill into specific deals and review how to improve future forecasts for the sales team. Forecast snapshots can be taken each week, each month, once a year, entirely up to you. So let me move over to my my demo just to show you some of those features in action, not all of them. See if we can just get a flavor of what there is. So on my dashboard, on the home page, we have our assistant, and it is providing reminders and prompts on our records that we have in the system. When I click on show all, I can see more detail in relation to those cards. And the action card has an open record, an open option to open the record and other buttons to provide feedback or dismiss that reminder. If I open up my contact record, we have a form that displays different feedback based on sales insights. We have talking points at the top right hand corner, which may suggest any conversation starters for that particular contact. Below this, we have our connection insights rating on our relationship. And this for this contact, I can see it's currently poor and steady. Now, if I were to click on the relationship analytics tab, this gives me a bit more details behind that current rating. It provides the type of interactions, the number of engagements over time, and the current time spent. Looking at your activity records that have been fed against that particular contact. And the same will apply for opportunities. Have my timeline for history, the types of activities I've been recording, the various types, and the time usage there. I move back onto the summary page. When I take a look at my timeline, the timeline gives me a roll up of all of the engagements between my organization and this particular contact, showing me records from email, leads and opportunities throughout the system where this contact has been included. The activity suggestion box at the top of the timeline presents me an email that has been suggestions for an email that had been recently received from the contact. Although presented on that timeline, the email is only available for me from my Exchange mailbox, and no one else can actually see that record. I can click on the save button, and this comes up with a prompt for me to save that suggested activity. If I click on save, this will then create the email in Dynamics 365 available for other people now to view this. Let's go over to an example of an opportunity, how that would look. So I have my predictive scoring at the top right-hand corner. There's been assigned a rating of 50, but improving. My assistant is providing reminders that the opportunity will close soon. There we are. So that is actually going to close soon, and that there is a meeting fast approaching. The connection insights provide a preview as before on the contact record, but also shows me the last interaction and the next interaction with this particular contact. You can see that my previous meetings and meetings coming up. If I go over to the timeline again and take a look at an email that I've created and sent to this particular contact. This is a followed email that I've marked to follow, and I've got a quick preview of when I sent the actual email and the time, and when it was actually opened by that contact. If I were to drill into that email itself and open the email record, I can see on the right-hand side that I've marked this email to be followed. I've also set up a reminder in case the recipient, the contact did not respond back to this email. I set up a reminder to prompt me with the assistant to follow it up. And at the bottom, we have our recipient activity, which allows me to see how many times the email was open, when the attachment was viewed, and if there was a link, if they clicked on that link. It also tells me the replies. If I was to click on more, I can then see the whole conversation history for that particular email. I'll be able to then look at that response and reply. So different features of the sales insights and the functionality with core Dynamics 365 working together add more information to the salesperson. If we then just jump back to the main screen and go to our forecasts, one of the nice things that we can do with our forecast is that I can click and review this forecast when it appears on the screen, of course. I have my forecast in place. There's nothing is currently predicted. I have no quota calculated yet. But I have a total for my open and won opportunities. As I've come into the screen, it's now trying to give me an updated version of these figures. And if I click on this line, I can then see my details in relation to the opportunities making up this information in this total. I can adjust any estimated revenue from this screen, any prediction. And I can look and click into the record to open it up and see more detail. When I go over to trend, I can then see the trend of what's happening with my proposed opportunities and what I've won. There's a color code in there. Unfortunately, with my model at the moment, we don't have a prediction being calculated to predict the future, but given it time, I'm sure it will. If I just unmark the won records, we can then see a graph in more detail. As I showed you on the slides as well, one of the things we can do is take snapshots, like I say, each week, each month, and then we can compare those snapshots accordingly. And what I'm doing here on the left-hand side is looking at my snapshot for February and comparing that with my snapshot for March. Like I say, in February, we had 22 million of open opportunities, but now in March, we only have 18, but we managed to upsell some of our opportunities to increase the one amount there. So that's all I have to show you guys. I hope you could get a flavor of that functionality, and I'll pass you over to Paul to show you about Power BI.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I get just a bit of a shout out just to make sure everyone can hear me okay?
Yeah, good, Paul.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
okay,
yep.
Excellent. Just share my screen. Okay, let me know. Hopefully everyone can see a CRM dashboard for SA Global in front of you.
Yes, all good.
Excellent. Okay, fantastic. Right, thank you very much. Okay, so the purpose of this little demonstration is more just to demonstrate the flexibility of Power BI in terms of how it operates like what is essentially a blank canvas, and how it can work seamlessly and perfectly alongside CRM. So I'm not going to go into depth of BI, what is BI, how we change the underlying data model to make it more conducive for reporting. That's more for another time, and it will be a much longer webinar. So for the purpose of this, like I said, I'm just going to go over an initial dashboard that we've created just to show how it can be used, how it can meet the needs of a given business. With Power BI, like I said, you can have a dashboard where the look and feel can look and feel however you want it to do so. Like I said, it is essentially like a blank canvas. You can have it so that it complies with corporate standards and branding, which is essentially what I've done here. You can create it so it's nice, big, large, easy to see, and it's more intuitive, regardless of the level of skill of any given user. And like I said, for this one, it's slightly exaggerated in terms of the look and feel, just to make it easy for everyone to view for the purpose of this webinar. And also just because this would actually work pretty well if you used any sort of mobile or tablet. So I'll just show very quickly. These are both screen prints with the Power BI mobile app. I looked at it on my my iPhone earlier today, took a quick screen print. And as you can see, it's quite easy to see the full dashboard itself. And then if you click into the individual section, for instance, this section is a narrative relating to licenses, that'll show up and give you the spiel relating to the figures which are displayed. Okay. So what I've done for the purpose of this dashboard, I've used, it's all sample data, so none of it's real. I've used data from Contoso Worldwide Imports and a few custom additions that we've added ourselves. So some of the fields and some of the figures are slightly ingratiated, but that's purely for the purposes of just making the data just pop out a bit more for everyone to be able to see. All right, so the front page is what you can see at the moment. Is designed to work as a kind of dashboard. So that can be a dashboard for a report, which I've used in this purposes, or it can be an actual dashboard which is used to display on a monitor within an organization, for example, so everyone can see and have an indication as to what's going on. So this particular dashboard is designed to give immediate insights into the business performance based on the data which is logged within the application, which in this case is CRM. It's an easy means of navigation to and from the different report sections, which I've grouped here using SA Global as an acronym in this instance. And I've also added useful narratives, which I'll go into, that just give a bit more explanation in terms of the figures, so it can save individuals from having to go through and review graphs or charts. Instead, it'll essentially give you bullet points to say exactly what the main information is. Okay, so with the front page, like I said, I've grouped into different sections, and then we've got key metrics, which I've displayed there in the different sections. So we've got sales, activities, goals, leads, opportunities, base NPS, which is the Net Promoter Score, acquisitions and complaints, and licenses and softwares. These are essentially report cards, so it's very easy to swap and change. So you can have as many report cards on the initial dashboard as you want. The idea is you just have information which hits you in the face that you want to see as soon as you access the dashboard. And you can apply row level security for this, which means that the figures can change or adjust based on the department of the user or even the specific user itself. So you can configure this so the figures will show information which is specific to an individual user and it'll adjust accordingly. I've got sections here which allows you to drill down into these different sections which makes up the figures. You can have a page view, but I've just hidden it just to show how you can use it for the purposes of this. And if you do have this, what essentially is a bookmark drill through capability, it tends to lend itself better when you're viewing it on a tablet or a mobile device. One thing I've added to the front of the screen as well is little narratives. So for example, if you just hover over here quickly, it'll actually come up with a few bullet points relating to the underlying figures. So like I said, this can be quite useful. For example, if you're in a high-level position, particularly busy, and you just want a general overview as to the information which makes up the figures. So I've added these into what are essentially tooltips. So as opposed to using tooltips just to say this figure gives this, it'll give you a bit more information. So for example, if I demonstrate the licenses, so for example, it'll say, oh, I just do it here, sorry. Move out of the way. There you go, license narrative. So we've so far sold a total of 1.4 million licenses. Like I said, the figures are ingratiated and it's just more to just help us get an indication as to the visuals which we'll display. It's spread across 36 different licenses and 8 different applications. And Power BI has the most profitable license sold, responsible for 920 million, which would be amazing, split into 90% for embedded, less than 1% for pro, and just under 10% for premium. So like I said, the narratives can be really useful. It can give you an overview into the underlying data without even having to look at the underlying data. And this narratives can be displayed on the pages itself, or it can be displayed like I have here, where you've actually added it as tooltips. So I'll very quickly just drill into the different sections and go through them. So if I click here, it'll then take me through to the sales figures. Okay, so this then shows the different sales figures. So we've got the sales figures separated by the different sectors that we have. So by consultants, by developments, and by support sales, in which case we've got them in million values. And then we've got the hours sold by product group. So for instance, we've got PSA, CRM, F&O, Projects 360, and Business Intelligence specific. And then we've got a waterflow chart that shows the actual figures that's made up the total based on the roles, whether you're a consultant or development. And each of these relate to each other. So for instance, if you wanted to see specific data relating to the development, then this will adjust accordingly and show, so as you can see, as you'd expect, all of the figures there relate specific to development. But if you wanted to select, say, CRM, then we can see the distribution of sales based on whether the consultant, development, or support sales specific to CRM. I've also added your line chart. Purposely, I've taken away the legends and any sort of descriptive information to it, because the main purpose of this is just to kind of show the volatility in terms of the sales, which can impact on forecasting and prediction. So essentially what you'll be looking for if you wanted to predict future trend is something along the lines of a line of best fit. So the straighter the line, the less volatile, the less peaks and troughs and outliers, and the more easy it would be to indicate what the figures are likely to be. So for instance, if you click on PSA, you can see this will adjust accordingly. And then again, if you click on CRM, you can see how the figure will adjust. There you go. And then Legal 360. So like I said, what you'll be looking for in terms of prediction or analysis is you look for as straight a line as possible, would then give you an indication as to how accurate you could have your future forecast or predictions. Each of these different sections as well comes through drill throughs or provided drill throughs. So if you click on CRM, select drill through and sales drill through, it'll actually give you the line by line data. It's not an awful lot of data. Like I said, it's just enough to highlight some of the visuals here. But it can give you the line by line data that make up the value. So that can be useful if you want to satisfy yourself as to the accuracy of the information that's being provided. Or again, if you want to export the information to another application such as Excel, because you might want to carry out your own analysis based on that data. Okay, and then we'll click back. All right, and then we've got the same for activities. Okay, just to catch up. And like I said, with the narratives, which are displayed on the front section, you could have it displayed here as well. So the narratives basically explain the data which is available that you can view. And again, the narratives will act similar to any of these. So as and when you click on any of these sections and the data filters, the narrative will filter accordingly as well. Okay, so what I've actually got here is the different activities as an example. One thing I should have said at the beginning, which I'll go over here, it's a kind of mishmash dashboard which just shows numerous different sections which you can include in the report. Generally, if you were doing a dashboard specific to sales, you might have everything in there which is just for sales, but this is just to give you an indication of the various different areas within CRM that could be incorporated in the dashboard and how they could be used alongside each other. So this one looks at the different activities as they're split by the different methods of email, phone call, and tasks. The open activities by owner. So it's a stacked bar chart, which shows whether they're high, low, or normal. And of course, the top of the bar chart indicates the total number of activities. You can then have activities by rating, normal, high, or low, and activities by status. I've also included your activities by subject. So generally, when it comes to statistics, BI, and reporting, it's difficult to get any sort of meaningful insights if you're using any sort of text value. So anything which is free type, mainly because it's free type, so there's so much information there. One really useful visual which you can use is essentially a word map. So the word map will look at all of the different phrases and all of the different words which are being used across free type sections and reports, and then it'll put them into a report. Essentially, the biggest would then highlight how many times it's mentioned. So for example, when it comes to activity 17 contain the word product. So the more times it's mentioned, the bigger it appears, and then the more useful insights you can get from it. So for example, with one of the narratives, I highlighted that a specific word was going to be used. So then I built a DAX formula to count every time this word was being used, and then that includes in the narrative. So like I said, once you get an indication of the free type text which is being used, you can then start building controls in place to do an awful lot more with it. And as I said, you've still got the flexibility if you need to do so to drill through to the different sections, and then you can satisfy yourself as to the accuracy of the information that's contained within there. Okay, we've also got, let's have a look, goals. So I do apologize for the picture, it's all me at the moment, but you could have a number of different agents here, however many fall within your team. And like I said, if you've got role level security, these will adjust based on a given team or given department. So these basically show the percentage of achieved for goals for given individuals, whether you're Ada Mills, Di Brown, or Bill Johns. We've then got a bar and line chart, which shows the actual and the target for individuals. And then we've got the percentage achieved by goal owner. And again, like everything else, then you have the flexibility if you need to do so to drill through. What the drill through will do as well is, depending on the actual bar that you click through, it'll give you and it'll automatically filter specific to that individual. For example, we've got John Williams here, who's actually is 4250. If you drill through then, the goal information will be specific to John Williams because that's the person that you've actually selected through. All right, then we'll go on to leads. Okay, so this one, for example, shows the type of leads which have been generated, split between advertising, marketing, engineering, contract, research, IT consulting, and law firm leads. I've just added a few visuals there just to separate, just to give a bit more information. Like I said, when it comes to the front page, you can pick and choose which of these cards you want to display on the front, and that can be dependent on the user, dependent on the department. It depends what's important to you. So I've also got a little bar chart here that just shows the leads by the sector, so that expands on the different sectors other than the 5 which are displayed here. And then we've got the campaigns in terms of how heard of. So then you can see where these leads have been generated from. So for example, the bigger this actual mapping chart is, the more leads that has been generated from it. And then we've got main office location. So for instance, this could be based on the main office location of the work, or it could be the location where specific work could be carried out, depends on the nature of the business. And again, these all filter along with each other. So for example, if you looked at the architecture and engineering leads, as expected, that would just show the 16, but then you can see how these differ by the different leads and how they're heard of and the locations. For example, the bigger the bubble, the more leads we got. So for example, we've got 3 architecture and engineering. In this instance, we've got 2 in Iceland, but a few that's appearing there. And again, it works the same. So if you might want to see the leads which have been generated by the different campaigns, for example, we could see the SA Global website. And then based on the SA Global website, we can see where it's been at, the leads, or where it's been accessed from, and where the different departments falls into in terms of whether or not we get leads for IT and consulting, engineering, or advertising and marketing from the different sections. And again, like I said, these still have the drill through capability to satisfy yourself as to the accuracy of the information that's available there. All right, and then we have opportunities, which I'll click into. Okay, so with opportunities, we have a bit more information than leads as expected. So in this instance, we're displaying key metrics relating to the estimated revenue from the opportunities, the actual revenue. Like I said, again, this is ingratiated data, so it's not accurate or real data. The amount of revenue which has been achieved and the average probability across all the different opportunities that we have. Again, we've got a little word map there, which can be quite useful. So like I said, if you click on, say, upgrade, for example, then there are 7 opportunities which specifically mention the word upgrade. And then you can see for upgrade, the estimated revenue, which is where that has been mentioned, the actual customers that make reference to upgrade, how many of them are warm, hot, and then by the actual status itself. Here we've got the average probability by potential customer. So we put the top based on the probability that we've rated. And again, we can specify whether or not the opportunities by the different rating, warm, hot, or cold, or by the actual status. So if we want to look at the opportunities that we've lost, we can see the ones that we've lost in terms of the estimated revenue, which we've actually lost as well, and the topics which they specifically relate to. And again, you still have the drill down capability if you want to be able to see the information relating to the opportunities. All right, and then we've got the base Net Promoter Score. So again, can be quite useful. Generally, Net Promoter Score should be used and viewed and reported on across all businesses, and especially if you're in any sort of industry or business or sector, which word of mouth is essentially gospel, in which case you really want to look after your customers and turn as many as you can to promoters so they can say positive things about your business. So what we've got here on display is the Net Promoter Score, which at the moment, based on the data that the false data we've put in there, is 1.49. We can make use of narratives in here as well, so you can use a tooltip. So as opposed to just saying the Net Promoter Score, you can drag a mouse over here, so at the moment the tooltip just says the score, so that's the out of the box. You can actually have it to give a bit more information, or even to break down exactly how this calculation comes about. You've got your number of detractors, you've got your number of passives, and your number of promoters who are saying positive things about the business. Then you've got, again, so you've got your free type sections where we've captured a bit more information, but you can still use information on it. So again, you can click at documentation where people have made specific reference to documentation, in which case those that have made reference to documentation seem to be all detractors. And then you can look at the Net Promoter Score by the different sectors. So for example, we tend to have a much higher Net Promoter Score within architectural engineering than what we do in contract research or IT management and consulting, as an example. Then we've got then we've got essentially a little chart here which we've displayed, but just to essentially highlight where we've closed the loop. So we've got yes to say that we've closed the loop on 59 of the closed cases, which equates to just under 90%. And then we've got no for 8 cases, which equates to just under 12%. So close the loop in this instance would represent where we've had feedback, and then we've called the individuals or the organisation back or the accounts back to get a bit more information. And it's through closing the loop and getting a bit more data then we can identify the proximate cause behind the figures that they've actually give us in terms of the NPS score, so we can turn detractors and passives into actual promoters. And again, through the use of this, that's something that can actually be monitored. Okay, and then we got complaints. So again, we can monitor the complaints based on whether email or letter, if anyone still sends letter complaints anymore, whether they're phone, and we can have a look at the average customer satisfaction. Again, we actually use the descriptive information which is given in terms of text just to highlight the specific reasons for complaints. So for example, we've got 8 which make specific reference to performance. We can see the complaints which have been logged and then resolved by month. And we can see complaints by the different categories based on what's been logged in there, and complaints based on the stage. And again, you still have that drill through capability if you need to look at the information relating to the complaints. Okay, and finally then we'll have a look at the licenses and software. So I know we touched on the narrative a bit earlier, which can be extremely useful for this. So just to recap, so we've sold a total of 1 million licenses spread across 36 different licenses and 8 different applications, and we've made specific reference to Power BI. So it's a DAX formula that's just given a bit of bullet points that picks out the main information which is specific to a user of this dashboard, because essentially you could say, well, as a user of this dashboard, as a user story, I want to see which license is most profitable, and of that particular application, what are the different license types and how are they distributed. Okay, in which case we can click into the licenses sectors. We've got the main key metrics displayed. So the profit from Power BI, Legal 360 licenses, analysis services from Elastic Pools, so Azure offering, and SQL database. We can see the monthly sales price, the cost price, and the subsequent profit which is being generated, and we can see the monthly profit by the different license types. And again, then you still have the flexibility to be able to drill through and see the information which makes up. So this is all grouped by into Power BI Premium, which you looked at, and then we can look into standard, drill through by the different sections. So like I said, you do have that drill through capability just to give you a bit more information. It's a bit of a whistle-stop tour. Like I said, the data in here and the dashboard itself is slightly exaggerated, but that's just to give you an indication as to how flexible Power BI is and how well it can work alongside and complement CRM. In this instance, we're just using information from the CRM system, but typically if this was built off the back of what would be a data warehouse, you'd be incorporating data from multiple sources, which means you can have a much better cyclical approach across the entirety of the business. And then if something happens or doesn't happen, you can easily identify the proximal cause or start automating processes to make sure that things happen, or things which should happen, ensure that they do. Okay, and that's it from myself. So thank you very much.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Paul.